Going live. Hi, everybody. I am honored and so fortunate to have Kevin Martin on here for today as a guest. I think I've met Kevin probably about 18 years ago already in Chicago when he was still in the Navy. And we have been in on and off contact all the time. So I want to just give you a little bit of an overview of Kevin, and then he can also chime in if he want to add anything. But Kevin has been in the Navy for 18 years, you said, right?
20 years.
20 years, wow. And then retired from the Navy and went to law school and became a lawyer. And
Correct.
Then didn't last too long on that one and decided to actually follow his real passion, which is traveling all over the world, of which he got a little bit of exposure while in the Navy already. Now he's a full-time travel blogger and vlogger. And I've been following his travels. He did a 1-year stint with the Remote Year program, and went from country to country and stayed in each country for about a month, and apparently had a wonderful time. And so I'm so happy to be able to interview Kevin today. And my first question, Kevin, is who is Kevin? Who is Kevin Martin?
You summarized me pretty well, but my elevator pitch is always, I was born in St. Louis, Missouri. At 19 years old, I joined the U.S. Navy because I wanted to see the world. I was really fortunate in the Navy. I got to see the world, and it opened my eyes to travel and other cultures and other foods, which was great. I did that for 20 years. I retired in 2015 and went to law school in DC at Georgetown. After law school, I was a juvenile defense attorney for a year. Actually, that was in law school. It was a kind of an internship. So I was a juvenile defense attorney for a year. And after I graduated law school, I went to work for a corporate law firm, and I defended mostly pharmaceutical companies. So that wasn't really that ideal for me personally, although it was a great law firm. When you're a lawyer, you come home or you work tons of hours. I mean, they pay you a lot of money, but there's a reason for that because they keep you in the office a lot. And so I was coming home at night and I was watching YouTube travel vloggers, and I had a YouTube channel in the past on investing. I had to shut it down because of the conflicts with some of my clients. But I already knew kind of the power of having a YouTube channel and audience and how to monetize that. So one day I just decided that I'm going to go do that because I love to travel and I love the creative side of creating videos, creating content. And so I figured I'd marry those two passions and try to create my own business and start my own thing and work my own hours. Right. And as you mentioned, I started off traveling internationally with a program called Remote Year. For those that don't know, Remote Year takes a bunch of people who can work remotely. You pay them a monthly fee, and they handle all the logistics of travel. They handle your flights, your rides to and from the airport. They handle your apartment because you're staying in a country for 30 days in that program. They also get you co-working membership, so you have good, reliable internet to work because everyone I traveled with was a working adult. There was 35 of us in my group. And so I did that for 12 months, lived in 12 different countries, which was amazing. Ended in South Africa, in Cape Town. And that was in March of 2020. The word COVID was starting to float around, but it hadn't reached the level that we are at today. And so I was going home to visit my mother for a month, and then I was going to head back out for some more international travel. I actually had things booked all the way until October of 2020, Airbnbs and flights. And obviously COVID changed that. I had always wanted to buy an RV and travel the United States because I haven't really explored my own country. I mentioned that I've seen a lot of the world, but I haven't really seen much of the United States outside of Missouri. When I was a kid, my mother took us on 2 RV trips, one to Florida and one to Colorado. And I just had fond memories of that. So it was something I always wanted to do. I follow a lot of YouTubers that travel around in vans and RVs. And so I started thinking, how can I travel without getting on an airplane? And I revisited the idea of buying an RV. I bought a van, a Winnebago Travato. And for the last almost 2.5 months now, I've been traveling in the United States. I'm currently in Colorado, near a town called Leadville, which is at about 10,000 feet. And I'm loving it because at night it's 40 degrees and the day it's 74, 75 degrees. So I think that gets you caught up.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much about the same here. We get down to about the 50s now. And then
awesome.
Lately it's just been about mid 70s every day. We've had a couple of warm ones, but so far so good.
That's amazing.
So just go back a little bit. So what was the favorite thing for you from being in the Navy, or a few of the favorite things?
I mean, so many. I mean, obviously the people. There's a certain camaraderie that goes along with having a shared experience. The military takes a bunch of different people from a bunch of different backgrounds, socioeconomic, racial, and throws them all together and says, you guys are going to work together. And so maybe you meet people that you normally wouldn't have interacted with. And so I think it's great from that respect. It exposes you to a lot of different things that you might not have been exposed to. And you start hanging around with people that you might not have had the opportunity to hang around with. And I think it just makes you a better person, or it certainly made me a better, more open-minded person. So if I had to pick one thing that was my favorite thing, I would say that.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. That's really important in our lives, right? Is so many times we get stuck in a lifestyle or in an area, in a place, and you're not really open to meet other people. I found the same thing when I came to the US from South Africa. Cape Town is my hometown, by the way.
I know. That was awesome. I loved it.
Oh, yes. We'll have to catch up on that more. But so I found too, coming here and being in a strange place and in a strange environment, I tended to be more open and to meeting people who I might not have even previously interacted with. And so it really opened it opened my mind, and it also opened a lot of doors for me that way.
Yep.
So awesome. And so obviously with law school and with working and defending pharmaceutical companies, that didn't go so well.
First I was defending juveniles. So I actually really loved that.
Right.
First I was defending kids, but then I went to defend. Then I went to a corporate law firm, and I just happened. Most of the cases I worked on were pharmaceutical, specifically the opioid crisis cases.
Okay. Oh, wow. Right.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So now traveling and travel blogging and travel vlogging.
Yeah, mostly travel blogging. I do have a blog, but I'm really bad at updating that. But my vlogs are updated every single week. I do a video every single week.
Okay, awesome. And that's where to find you. Where, is that mostly on YouTube, or do you do Facebook as well?
Yeah, so on YouTube it is 30 and a wake up. So the number 30 and a wake up. That's how you find me on YouTube. I also have a Facebook group called 30 and a wake up, but that's basically just for me to post my YouTube links to, because some people just are on Facebook. My mother, for example, would never just go to YouTube, so she clicks on the links off Facebook. So I do have a Facebook group as well, and I also have an Instagram, which is more up to date than my YouTube. My YouTube channel is usually about 3 weeks behind, where my Facebook is just me posting little short daily things. Right. And that's the same name, 30 and a wake up, the number 30 and a wake up.
Okay, awesome.
I'm actually going to turn my light on so it's a little brighter in here.
Sure.
I feel like I'm like going to the dark. There's cloud cover behind me. I wish you could see out this window. There's a huge mountain, but it's
wow.
right outside right now for you to see that.
Oh, that's nice. Yep, I have been to Colorado a couple of times, but I have very good friends in Grand Junction,
Okay.
so I'm planning to go up there sometime. But this year seems to be a little bit of a mess.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's easy to travel like I'm traveling because you can isolate. Like I'm in the middle of the forest.
Nice.
There's nobody within a mile of me, so.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Right. I actually, just funny enough, I just looked at RVs and possibilities. So eventually, I looked at the fifth wheel or something they call it.
Yeah, a lot of my friends have fifth wheels.
Right. And so this one would work perfectly for me because it's got the opening in the back and it's got like a 13 feet, little toy hauler or toy area.
Yeah,
so I can always. Right, so I can always put my birds all in there.
I never thought about that. Most people put motorcycles and mountain bikes.
Other toys.
You can put your birds in there.
Right.
That's a good point.
Right. So just to go back to the traveling. So how did you start? I mean, how did you approach that and doing it full time? And did you get into remote year right away, or did you do something else beforehand?
Yeah, so I went directly from being a lawyer. I quit my lawyer job at the end of February, and I hopped on a plane to my first remote year country, which was Peru, March 3rd, I think was the date. So I think I quit. I gave notice, so I didn't like just walk out the door.
Right.
My legal job ended, I believe, 20th of February. And then I was on a plane 3 March to Peru to start remote year. So for me, I was starting a new YouTube travel channel, and I wanted remote year appealed to me for a couple different reasons. Number one, I would be traveling with some like-minded people. Mm-hmm. Number two, I wouldn't have to handle any of the logistics, so I could just focus on my YouTube channel, doing videos, editing them, doing the marketing and all the stuff required from that without having to worry about all the logistics. With the remote year, you just show up or they just get you to the airport. If a plane gets canceled, flight gets canceled, they handle that. So I didn't have to handle any of the logistics of travel. Plus, in each country in remote year, there's a local team. There's 2 people that take you to places that you might not normally go as a tourist, because they live there. They speak the language, and so for me, it just made sense for my first year to do something like that, kind of like travel on training wheels, full-time travel on training wheels, and so that's what I did for the first year. I traveled with them, and then, like I said, I was going to go out on my own. I had everything.
Right.
I had everything planned all the way through October of this year. And then COVID hit. And so I've never gotten to travel internationally solo yet, but at some point I'm going to go back to that. I plan on living both lives, like traveling part of the year in my van, in my RV, in the United States, Mexico, and Canada, maybe explore South America. And then the other half of the year going to places internationally. So right. I'm going to try to have my cake and eat it too.
Of course, why not? And I'm sure this will change at some point and we will be able to fly again. So what was your favorite country of the 12 months that you were on remote year?
So when people ask me that question, that's like an impossible question to answer. That's like asking asking a parent who their favorite child is. I think it's like you like each child or you like each country for different reasons.
Right.
But if someone asks, I always twist that question around and I say, if someone said, I can only go to one place, where should I go?
Right.
My answer to them would be Peru. And the reason for that is Peru has, no matter what you're into, they have it. They have metropolitan cities. They have a world-class city in Miraflores. They have little small colonial Spanish towns. They have Aztec ruins you can explore. You can hike, or Incan ruins, not Aztec. Incan ruins. You can hike the Incan Trail. You can go to Machu Picchu. So they have one of the 7 wonders of the world. They also have natural wonders like Rainbow Mountain. You can go surfing one day, the next day go into the mountains and go skiing, and the next day go into the middle of the Wakachina Desert and sandboard on sand dunes like you would find in the Sahara Desert. So, because they have Peru has the most climates in the world, they have a bunch of different microclimates, and so that's why I would recommend Peru, because it just has something for everybody. And they also have world-class restaurants. I think 3 or 4 of the top 10 restaurants in the world, Michelin star restaurants in the world, are in Peru. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And I love Peruvian food, so I'm definitely going.
That's amazing.
Awesome. And so tell me about your stay in South Africa. That was February this year?
Yeah, so that was my last country. And we were there during the summer, even though it was March. No, February. It was February.
Right.
But it was really hot there. So we did a lot of exploring the coast, which was awesome. And then we went to a safari. We went through Kruger National Park, and then we went to a safari that's out next to Kruger National Park. I don't think a lot of people know you can't actually go out into Kruger National Park. You can just drive on the road. They don't allow safaris in there. It's a protected area for good reason. But the areas outside of Kruger are where the safaris are, where you can be 3 feet away from a male lion or a cheetah or hyenas or whatever it is. So I did that in South Africa, and then the rest of the time I lived in Cape Town and just kind of hung out in Cape Town. I went to a I'm trying to remember that I can't remember the name of it, but it's kind of like a block party. It's kind of in more of the shantytown area. Okay. They do it like every Sunday. They have musicians come and play. They have a barbecue, and it was really awesome. It was amazing.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, and then went and hung out with penguins on the coast. I was scared in the water because I jumped on this website that tells you where all the great whites are in the world that are being tracked. And at the time, there were 10 of them off the coast of Cape Town. And I was like, I don't want to get in that water. I don't want to get in that water, especially around a bunch of penguins, because that are swimming around in there. I don't want to be confused for a big penguin or seal at Great White Shark. So, but yeah, I really loved it. I hiked Tabletop Mountain. And Lion's Head, something like that.
Lion's Head, yeah.
Yeah, so that was really cool. I loved it there. I mean, it's kind of weird because most people don't even know what to think when they go to Cape Town. And I always tell people they should watch the movie, or they should watch the documentary Searching for Sugar Man, so they can understand kind of the history of South Africa and actually how isolated they were culturally from the rest of the world for so long, and then all of a sudden culture was let in, or the rest of the world culture was let in, Western culture. So it's really interesting because it's as a Westerner and American, it's kind of like being in the United States, but kind of not. It's kind of a weird thing. We speak the same language, have a McDonald's on every corner, but yeah, it's really interesting. And the beaches are the scenery there is just amazing. I was floored by the scenery in Cape Town. It's just every day is an Instagrammable moment. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I grew up in my high school years and later years. My parents lived in a small town called Claremont, which is on the south coast. It's about 100 kilometers from Cape Town, just over the mountains. And it's just amazing. I mean, we had little penguin crossings where the penguins can cross the street. Yeah. And
I'm fascinated by them.
Yes, it's amazing. And you know what? You could see the whales. They came up so close, the southern right whales and everything. They're usually there about August and September, but it's super amazing. I'm very partial towards South Africa still. It's been
Yeah.
a while since I've been back, but I'm definitely having to plan a trip.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love it.
Awesome. Now, with your travels and with your vlogging, do you have sponsors or people who sponsor you? And
Yeah, so I always tell people there are like a couple ways to monetize a YouTube channel. So the first way is if you go to YouTube and you watch a video, you're probably going to see a commercial run. Google gives me 60% of that ad revenue. So if you see a bit, so I always tell people, if you want to help out, if you like a YouTuber, just watch the commercial because they'll get a certain percentage of it. Because you have to watch a certain amount of time in the commercial. But so I make ad revenue off views of my videos.
Okay.
So that's the first way I make an income off YouTube. The second way is through brand sponsorships. So I have one major one. It's with a company called Unbound Merino. It's a company that I was wearing their stuff anyway. For those that don't know, just a little bit of background so I can explain that better. I was a one-bag traveler. I only traveled with one carry-on bag, 30-liter backpack, an Osprey, small backpack, about this big. That's all I traveled with. Well, to make that possible, you have to have the right clothing, the right gear, all that kind of stuff. So I discovered merino wool, which is a great fabric. You can wear it multiple wears without it smelling. It's antimicrobial. You can wear it in cold weather and hot weather because it breathes in hot weather really well. It dries super quick. It whisks away moisture. So it's a great fabric. And I left on my journey with 4 different brands. 2 of the brands were absolute crap, and 2 of the brands I like and I still wear. I'm wearing it right now. As a matter of fact, it actually translates really well into living in a small van as well. So I just kept tagging those companies on my Instagram posts, not really looking for a sponsorship, but just letting them know I'm wearing their gear. And my favorite company, which is Unbound Merino, which is owned by 3 guys who travel full-time or travel a lot. One of them travels full-time. They reached out to me and said, hey, we noticed that you're wearing our stuff all the time. We'd like to give your viewers a discount code, and we'll give them a 10% discount, and we'll give you 10% of the revenue. Oh, wow. So that's my deal with them. It's actually, I know it doesn't sound like that much, but like in December, I sold over $20,000 worth of merino wool.
Oh, wow.
So it's actually a pretty good revenue generator for me, even though only a small percentage of my audience is really interested in that. So that's another way. I also am an Amazon affiliate. So anytime I have a product in my video, I usually put a link to it. Okay. I took a stance where I have a lot of people reach out to me and ask me to review their product. They'll give it to me for free and pay me to do a review. I don't do those. I only talk about products that I actually use and would recommend, that I've used for a while and I'd recommend. So one of the ways I make revenue that way is I put a link to that product through Amazon, and Amazon pays me a certain percentage of the sale if somebody buys that product. It's not a whole lot of money through Amazon, to be completely honest with you, but that's another way I generate ad revenue. I also have people reach out to me. I had an education company that reached out to me and said, hey, we want to license one of your videos on Columbia because we're teaching English to Colombians. And so I sold the licensing rights to that video to them so they could use it in their educational stuff. So I get stuff like that. Once or twice a month, I'll get some kind of comment like that where somebody wants to use one of my videos for something like that and license it. So,
right. Oh, wow,
so
cool.
that's the way.
Awesome. Now, I come from the other side of merino. When I grew up, my dad was farming with merino sheep. So we always did the shaving and creating the wool bales to send back and have the clothes made from. So I understand where that is.
It's an amazing. I tell people all the time, it's an amazing product. I mean, it's more expensive, but I mean, I have merino wool shirts that I've had for 2 years. If you felt them, you have to get them really tightly woven. There are merino wool sweaters that are just like wool sweaters, but you have to get them really tightly woven, like a really high thread count, and they feel like cotton. They feel no different than cotton.
Okay.
And but they last forever. They don't fade. Like all my shirts that I have that I've had for 2 years still look like the day I took them out of the package. They're still shiny looking, you know. They still have that new look to them. So it's a great fabric. I always recommend people like buy merino wool.
Right, and that's great. Now, do they have women's clothing, children's clothing?
So the company that I represent only has one shirt for women,
Really?
but there are companies like Icebreaker that have more clothes for women. The problem, the one issue with merino wool for manufacturers is it's really hard to dye. So most of them are in darker colors. Although I got this blue shirt on under here. But most of them are in darker colors, and unless it's like the New York fashion scene where all the women wear gray and black, they don't have a lot of colors that necessarily appeal to women because it's so hard to dye the stuff. Icebreaker has come up with a way to blend merino wool with a couple different other things, and so that's why they have more of a women's line. Because and that's the reason. I mean, it's just harder to dye it, so it's harder to have it in a variety of colors. Where like me, black and gray are what I like to wear. And if you're a woman that likes to wear black and gray, you'll love it.
Awesome. So, what was the well? I wouldn't say one because I know you have plenty of that. But if you have to look back, what is a few of the most unexpected pleasures or unexpected experiences that you've encountered in your time traveling?
So I mentioned Peru earlier. I hiked the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu, which was amazing. But the next day, I hiked to Rainbow Mountain, which is in the middle of nowhere. It takes forever to get there. It's a peak that is as high as base camp to Mount Everest, so it's over 17,000 feet. The air is very thin, but it's out in the middle of nowhere in a very rural area. And I basically got to meet a lot of people who have been living in Peru for tens of thousands of years, whose ancestors lived in Peru tens of thousands of years ago.
Wow.
And their way of living is pretty much untouched by Western society. Even today, it's a 3-hour drive to get there, and it's a very treacherous drive.
Right.
Like you want to take a nap because you'll be looking over like a cliff the whole time. It's a little bit nerve-wracking. There's no guardrails or anything, but so it's still pretty isolated. And so that was just an awesome experience. I got to like learn how they cook potatoes underground and have a great meal and just learn about their life and their way of living, and it was really interesting. It was a fascinating experience, and I've had something like that in every single country. To be completely honest with you, I mentioned the barbecue block party in like a shanty town in South Africa. There were a bunch of moments like that were pretty amazing. I also took a side trip to Laos and stayed in Luang Prabang and explored Laos. And Laos is an amazing country too. I stayed in the tallest building in Luang Prabang, which is the biggest city, and it was 3 stories. So amazing, really cool places to explore. So
awesome.
Hopefully that answered your question. I think I want to.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's it's those little things that we don't really plan for, and then it happens, or you just find these little hidden gems. So that's definitely great. And I'm making some notes too, so that I can remember. So, any last minute tips or wisdoms that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I like doing this channel is because it motivates people to do the same thing if that's what they want. And I tell people all the time, no matter what your situation is, whether it's financial or whether it's family or whatever it is, I can always show you an example of somebody like you that's out there doing what I'm doing or what you want to do. And so my advice is always figure out how to make whatever lifestyle you want possible, because it may take you 5 years, but at least 5 years from now, you're not sitting around going, God, I wish I could be doing this, because you could be doing this.
Right.
So, yeah, that would be my one piece of advice to people. If I can do it, anybody can freaking do it.
Oh yes, for sure. I did sign up. I signed up to start later this year, but with all of this stuff going on,
I feel awful for people that signed up, because it's such a, like, the company is struggling right now because they obviously can't take people around the world, so they're trying to come up with alternatives. I saw. Right.
Yeah, so I moved it out to next year, but things are really changing for me now anyway, because I'm not working in a full-time corporate job also, and I'm pursuing the emotion code and body code certifications. Yeah. So I actually have the emotion code, but I'm working on my body code certification. And then I joined a company or a group called the Inside Out Institute, where they are actually combining the conscious and the subconscious by having leadership transformational coaches working with the emotion code and body code healers together. And it's revolutionary. It's the first time that it will happen as a work. So it will really open doors for me too when I am certified and I'm working, and then I can work from anywhere in the world, because with energy healing it's so easy. So but it's not about me, it's about you.
No, I mean that was a good segue. It's like I tell people all the time, like, your job may not be remote, but you can find a job that is remote. Just start looking around and you can find something. You need to work while traveling.
Yes, so. For sure. Quick last question. I know we're a little over, but how long is your videos usually? Or do you have a specific time, or try and keep it only under a certain amount of time?
Yeah, so when I was traveling internationally, my videos usually were between 5 and 8 minutes. As I've been traveling in my van, they're actually more like 8 to 12 minutes, or a little bit longer, just because I like to kind of document my transition from one place to another. Okay. So, they've been a little longer, but they're always under 15 minutes. Although I'm working on one right now that might not be under 15 minutes.
That's all right.
But they're almost always under 15 minutes.
Awesome. Well, and you know what? If you come to California, my door is open and I have a big lot, so you can always park the van down here too.
I will 100% take you up on that. For sure.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for jumping on the interview with me today. And I'm looking forward to follow your journey and to hopefully see you soon.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Susanna.
Take care, Kevin. Bye.